The Magna Charter by Marriott. Edgar. All tell of the Magna Charter as were signed at the Baron's command, on Runningmead Island in to middle of to Thames by King John, as were known as Lackland. Some say it were wrong of the barons their will on the king so to thrust, but you'll see if you look at both sides of the case that they had to do something or bust. For John, from the moment they crowned him, started acting so cunning and sly. Being king, of course, he couldn't do wrong, but, by gum, he'd a proper good try. He squandered the ratepayers' money, all their cattle and corn he did take, till there wasn't a morsel of bread in the land, and the folk had to manage with cake. The way he behaved to young Arther went to show as his feelings were bad. He tried to get Hubert to poke out his eyes, which is no way to treat a young lad. It were all right his being a tyrant to vassals and folk of that class, but he tried on his tricks with the barons, and all, and that's where he made a faux pas. He started bombarding their castles, and burning them over their heads, till there wasn't enough castles left to go round, and they had to sleep 6 in a bed. So they went to the king in a body, and their spokesman Fitzwalter by name. He opened the hole in his helmet and said, conciliatory like, "What's the game?" The king starts to shilly and shally. He sits and he haws and he hums, till the barons in rage started gnashing their teeth, and them with no teeth gnashed their gums. Said Fitz, though the hole in his helmet, "It was you as put us in this plight." And the king, having nothing to say to this, murmured, "Leave your address and all right." This angered the gallant Fitzwalter. He stamped on the floor with his foot, and were starting to give John a rare ticking off, when the hole in his helmet fell shut. "We'll get him a Magna Charter," said Fitz. When his face he had freed, said the barons, "That's right, and if one's not enough, get a couple and happen they'll breed." So they set about making a charter. When it finished they'd got it all drawn up. It looked like a paper on cattle disease, or the entries for next year's World Cup. Next day, King John, unsuspecting, and having the afternoon free, to Runningmead Island had taken a boat, and were having some shrimps for his tea. He had just pulled the EAD off a big un, and were pinching its tail with his thumb, when up came a barge-load of barons, who said, "We thought you'd be here, so we've come." When they told him they'd brought Magna Charter, the king seemed to go kind of limp, but minding his manners he took off his hat, and said, "Thanks very much, have a shrimp." "You'd best sign at once," said Fitzwalter. "If you don't I'll tell thee for a start, the next coronation will happen quite soon, and you won't be there to take part." So they spread charter out onto tea table, and John signed his name like a lamb. His writing in places was sticky and thick through dipping his pen in the jam. And it's through that their Magna Charter, as were signed by the barons of old, that in England today we can do what we like, just so long as we do what we're told.